So we want to present our draft of the vision statement to you this morning. And before we do that, we want to give you an overview of our process, all the things we've done to find out what you think and feel about the near future of the congregation. And we're gonna walk through some of that now. Our visioning task force consisted of myself, Lauren Berdecka, Bob Harris, Kathy Neff, and Carl Nash. Lauren and Carl won't be here this morning, but we were also assisted, of course, by Mandy. So our agenda here is, first of all, to thank everybody who participated. We got a lot of feedback. We didn't hear from everybody, but we did try to collect as much information as we could. We're going to explain the purpose, the goals. We'll talk about the background, the process, timeline, and we'll give an opportunity to hear what you think and feel about it, and hopefully we'll have a great process this morning. So we wanted to create a new vision statement for the congregation. The old one was 6 words, and it was great for like a banner. We had a different concept of a vision statement that would include something about what we're reaching for in the next about 5 years. So it should match up with our mission statement, ideally, and express a sense of what we're growing towards. That's what we hope to get out of our vision statement. Bob is going to come up in a second and tell us what a vision statement really is, and then we'll move on from there.
Thanks, Jack. We, your visioning task force, are coming to the end of our work to develop a vision statement for our beloved community. We have been working on this since last May, almost a year. You have been hearing a little bit about this from time to time, but you might say, remind me again, what is a vision statement and why do we need one? Well, a well-run organization, especially one with as many members as we have, should have both a mission statement and a vision statement. There are 4 components to our work, as the slide over here shows. Besides the mission statement and the vision statement, something called end statements explain how we know we became who we want to become. Although useful for you to look at, we are focused today more on the vision statement itself, and we'll be asking for your feedback on that. Finally, the board will look at the vision statement and end statements once they're voted on by all of you, and develop a strategic plan, which is a lengthier, more detailed document with goals and objectives, which states how we will accomplish this vision. Now, a mission statement is a concise statement of core purpose. It is an identity statement answering the question, who are we? Our mission statement, which is recited at every service, reads, we gather as an inclusive community to grow in character, mind, and spirit, and to transform the world toward fairness, love, and compassion. That's our purpose. That's who we are and why we exist in the first place. Usually mission statements don't change much over the years, although they may be reviewed every few years. On the other hand, a vision statement is, in one or a few sentences, a clearly defined picture of what the church wants to become in a specific time frame. It is not who we are, but rather where we are going. For a timeline, we have been working on a hypothetical 5 years, but there really is no magic number. The word vision is key because this is what people see when they look at the church and its activities. It gives direction to all that is done here. It should be phrased to convey the excitement to come. Just imagine if we could compare these two items to a family going on vacation. Their mission as a family might be, our family has fun. We are a supportive source of laughter, joy, renewal, and growth to each member. To live into their mission, they create a vision for this year, to go on vacation to a cottage on a lake, fishing and swimming with grilled burgers for dinner. Just think, if a family with a good mission but no vision got into a car and started driving, but had no clue as to where they were going or what a vacation would look like. They might run out of gas, be unable to get a hotel, and get lost. So the essential question is, what do people see when they look at our church in 5 years? Do they see lots of social justice work? Do they see great educational opportunities for both children and adults? Do they see an ethnically diverse congregation? Do they see a church living our values of pluralism or interdependence? None of these choices are necessarily good or bad, but they must reflect the needs, interests, and values of our members. A well-written vision statement serves as a way to keep us on track. We measure what we do against it. A church without a clear vision runs the risk of becoming splintered and lacking energy, doing some of this and some of that, or just remaining the same and growing stale. We do not want to get lost, nor do we want the church of the future to look just like we do today and become stale. It's important also to state what a vision statement is not. It is not a to-do list. We leave that to the creation of the strategic plan. It is not vague, general, or unclear. We are not a church that is just driving off on vacation to who knows where. These two things, a vision and a mission, play off each other. As a church accomplishes its vision, it may come to realize their mission is not quite what they thought it was, and so it can be tweaked. Also, as the vision is realized, a new addition is built or a social justice goal is reached, the vision will be reviewed and updated. Our task force has worked hard to listen to all of you and understand your needs and wishes, and to develop a vision statement that gives our beloved community identity and the strength to live out our mission. So now I'll turn it back to Jack. We'll talk about some of the processes.
We have a timeline here we put together to show sort of all that we've worked on. You know, our task force was put together last spring, basically a year ago. Mandy consulted with some members of the congregation to select the 5 of us who served. We took some time in the spring still to go ahead to read a book about vision statements and reflect together on what our process would be, and then took a little time then over the summer to let that sink in, and we began to reflect on all of the data we already had at our disposal about what the congregation wants and what the congregation is and hopes to become. And we had, one of the big things we had was tons and tons of data collected at the cottage meetings and I forget what we call it, the congregational conversations. So if you participated in those, and the notes that were taken from all those were available to us, and we spent a lot of time digesting all that. And from that, we pulled out 4 to 6 themes that we thought we could see there that we might be incorporating in, and we spent a lot of time reflecting on those. And then in a meeting with the co-chairs of the team, myself and Lauren and Mandy, we finally decided we're going to go with justice, growth, and community. Justice and growth were clear to all of us from the beginning, and what the third one would be was sort of the time we spent more time just sort of discerning what is that, and landed on community. Then we proceeded to get more feedback from you around those 3 themes. We did a RE workshop on community in October, and then we did one on growth in November. Then in February, we did one on justice. And we tried to present those links so you could actually submit responses to the first 2 then in February as well. And so it wasn't until March that we really finalized our own round of data collection, and we started to finalize what themes we saw there that were present, that were potentially new, and to begin distilling the language we would use to build a statement around those three themes. And so hopefully we'll present that statement to you this morning, and then if we have any revisions, we might make those, and then we'll present this statement to the congregation for the annual meeting on June 1st, and that will complete over a year of process for our group. Now, Kathy is going to come and tell us more about this data. Do you want this?
Hi, everybody. It's great to see so many of you here. I want to say thank you again to all of you who participated. A lot of your faces are, thank you, Sheila, familiar. So before we jump into the actual vision statement, and we're also going to describe the end statements that go along with those, we wanted to take a look at the data. And this is an eye chart. I don't know if you guys can read this, but I want to elaborate on where the vision statement came from and the end statements. Because the vision statement is a statement. It's kind of summarizing up our findings. And the end statements then go into more detail. So what was really interesting as we went through the first round of data, this was from October, on community, was how growth and justice were part and parcel of those discussions on community. So the left-hand column is kind of our summarization of the top areas. And then the right-hand column, you might see some of your own words in there. Jack actually, I want to thank Jack. Jack took, for those of you who hand wrote on the sheets that we handed out and passed them all in to us, Jack took all of those and put them into a spreadsheet. He transposed all that stuff so that we could more easily go through it and take a look at the data. So I've also, if you can see my little dot here, you see numbers. Those are the frequency that you stated things. And we put them into buckets. So the top thing under community was greater inclusiveness, diversity, and advocacy. That was the top thing that you all said you wanted. It was kind of a broader population. If you look at the right-hand side over here, if you can read this stuff, it's multidimensional. It's race, it's socioeconomics, LGBTQ+, formerly incarcerated people, kind of across the spectrum of broadening, who we are and what we're all about, and advocacy for, people with disabilities and things like that. So next, and also very important, was deepening relationships. It says 7, there were more than that. I mean, this was the data from where we said, what do you see us being in the future? These were the future-oriented questions that we asked you. So deepening relationships among and between the generations. Intergenerationality came through loud and clear here. To use our small groups to go deeper with our relationships and strengthen integration between older and newer members, and you just want more social time. This is a very community-oriented group of people. And then the third area here, this is where it starts to spill over into kind of justice. Becoming more involved in the community, in the local community, was also a common theme. Getting involved with community and faith organizations, especially for social justice, meeting larger community needs for homelessness, food insecurity, and then to educate the congregation and take action on those things. So those were kind of the top themes. Next, we'll move to growth. Now this, I have a lot of words over on the left, but this is really, these were ways to bucket it. Again, the whole first area, growth was so much about community, right? Deepening our connections, connecting to the local community. People talked about stretching ourselves to be more, when new people come, to make them feel welcome. I mean, multiple people mentioned, hey, sometimes we see people standing around, and we don't want that. We want to stretch ourselves to be bringing those people in to become part of our family and being friendlier. 24th, that was a lot there of people that mentioned that. Then we come down here. people want to hear to get spiritual direction, exploration, and education. So the theme of growing ourselves personally, spiritually, was really important for religious education, for our personal spiritual growth. Broad, open exploration of spirituality, a curiosity to learn. This came through pretty loud and clear. The people want to, again, stretch ourselves to, bring in other ideas and connect those things to expression in the world. So again, this is growth topic, but the next topic rolls right over into justice, partnering externally. So what was really affirming as we went through this was the same things seemed to be, agreed upon by people of what we wanted. And the same themes kept popping up. Organizing around and championing justice, partnering with other faith communities, et cetera, and participating in the community, increasing our advocacy. And then a lot of you, the last one, being known in the community. People, you all want us to have a reputation, right? And to be known for these things, a community presence and outreach, known for our values. So a lot of great themes with growth, but really incorporating community and social justice. And then finally, the last one is about justice. And I feel like I'm going to get repetitive now. The top thing here was partnering in the community to collaborate with other people and groups, and developing issue-based teams were things that you mentioned. Now, as we move down, kind of into the middle there, people also want to hear from the pulpit. No pressure, Mandy. To be inspired to take action, to promote living out our values in the world, right? To deepen it, because there's a lot, as I look out, there's people that have been here for years. There's new faces too, and new people. And like for myself coming, I have a new slogan: come for the community, stay for the justice. So many of you, I'm on the greeter team. When I ask, what brought you here today? Community. The desire for community. But there's so much more, because we also want to, we know we need to live it out, right? So you want to be inspired, and the next one, direction and resources for justice involvement. We talked about as a team the idea of us being like a hub where people can come, learn, gain inspiration, and then learn about things that they can connect to out in the broader world. And then finally, again, the theme of being visible and being known in the community. So these were the ideas, a lot of overlap here, but that you all mentioned to us. And so we wanted to share this with you because we feel like the vision statement that we came up with and the end statements that you'll hear about, they directly connect to this data. This is what you all told us. So I want to bring, I'm not going to forward it, okay? Because we don't want you to read ahead. So what's going to happen next is Jack. We don't, because you get distracted, right? So Jack is going to present the vision statement, and then Mandy will present the end statements, kind of the next level of detail down about just more specificity. Then we've got a handout. I didn't print out near enough. I'm sorry, you're going to have to share. And the printer's broken. Thanks, Tina. Sorry, bad timing. All right, so I'm going to bring Jack back up.
I want to say a couple more things before we share our statement. I think we put a lot of effort into it, and I hope that has come through with what we've shared so far. But on a personal note, I spent hours and hours and hours talking to ChatGPT about how we should phrase things. Like hours. I mean, like at least tens, maybe 100 hours. Like a lot of hours. I wrote, I think, 200 different vision statements myself, and I only shared about 50 of those with our group, and they were really sick of that. I got the message, right? So, on the other hand, though, I want to say that we do think we have a statement that fits really well with our mission statement in terms of approximately the same length, the same kind of language, and our idea about how we will use it in our congregational life is. We have the habit of reading our mission statement together every Sunday during services. We think that going forward we might be alternating, or we do think that the vision statement will be something that we say together on a regular basis. And we took that kind of like care in crafting the words and making sure that it represented all of this effort we put into collecting data to figure out what you care about, what you want. And having said that, we'll show you our statement. We strive to boldly enact our values toward a just world as we nurture our growth to become a more inclusive and deeply connected intergenerational community. Thanks. So I'll highlight a couple of things here before Mandy comes up to share our end statements. You can see that we just have, it breaks down into justice, growth, community. All vision statements have a kind of future orientation or a we strive. You know, the first verb is often strive or seek or we will. So we strive to boldly enact our values toward a just world. We played with a lot of language around justice. We even, at the first, it was at the end of our statement, and we moved it to the beginning. We had more descriptors in there and decided to remove some at the last second. We wanted to make sure that the concept of justice remains big to the reader so that we didn't narrow it. As we nurture our growth, we had more descriptors in there about growth for quite a long time, and again, tried to pare it down. Partly because all of those adjectives which describe community at the end of this, at the next clause here, they all apply to how we want to grow. And since they modify both our growth and our community. But it was so clear before we even started collecting our own round of information from you that growth was extremely important to the congregation. So then we have we are inclusive, we want to be more inclusive. We are connected and multi-generational is a word we considered, but we want to make sure that we are intergenerational, that we are connecting across generations, and that we form deep and meaningful connections that are the backbone and the engine behind our community. Would you come up and give us even more detail?
I do want to start by saying this team worked their booties off, and it was so amazing to watch the team collaborate together, but also the thoughtfulness that went into all of this work between the word choices that were finally decided on, wrestling with what was meant, with intentions, talking about who we obviously want to be, but also how we can challenge ourselves more. It was just such an amazing thing to be working with this group of people. So please, when you see them, say thank you for their years' worth of work. So as described earlier by Bob, end statements are the pieces that the next step of this process, which is forming the strategic planning team, will take over. The end statements specify the parts of this down a little bit more clearer, and then the strategic plan folks will take those end statements and then make a plan for how we're going to reach those end statements. They will likely be modified a bit here and there as the strategic plan does their work. But I think they're helpful to view because they help explain some of how we got to this very large vision statement from all of the amazing data. I mean, this process looks different in every church because of where they are at in this, and you all gave us a huge leap forward through the congregational conversations and then the cottage meetings and the interviews we did during the Capitol campaign, which meant that this group could really just go ahead and start focusing on narrowing down the vision statement almost from day one, which was great. So these end statements, there are 2 for each of the 3 topics. Community. We are an inclusive community in which all generations interact and collaborate with one another. We participate in our covenantal community to ensure that our members find a place of belonging. Under growth, we embody the pluralism of our UU values in our worship services and programming. We steward our faith tradition and practices while pledging our curiosity to change by adapting new ideas. Justice. We foster committed relationships with local community partners to collaborate in making our world more just. We boldly show up in our community and the world to be a witness to our UU values. So what do we mean by these things? Under community, when we say we are an inclusive community in which all generations interact and collaborate with one another, we're really talking about intergenerational pieces. There is a difference between multi-gen. We are a multi-generational community. If you came to the first service, you would have seen all of our youth already participating in our service. But we want more. We want our youth talking to people of different generations, and we want our older folks talking to our younger folks, imparting their wisdom. We want to be truly intergenerational, and that is what we heard from you as we were doing this work. When we say we participate in our covenantal community to ensure that our members find a place of belonging, what we are talking about is our members finding, it goes beyond welcoming. We want for folks who want to join our journey with us, we want them to belong, which means that they are engaged in our work. Currently, over 70% of our congregation is engaged in the work of this community at some level, whether it's volunteering as an usher or on a team or a committee, or whether it's a small group. Currently, we're at 70% of participation. And we want to hold that and maybe even grow that ideally while holding each other in covenant. We are accountable to each other to co-create this community. One of us cannot just simply decide we want to go in a different direction and drag everybody with us, right? We are in this together, and we want to do this work while engaging in the community together. When we talk about growth and we say we embody the pluralism of our UU values in our worship services and programming, we are saying we proactively embrace our pluralism by representing the theological views of our congregation in our programming. So remember that all 3 of these ideas of growth, community, and justice are interconnected and overlapping. So when we talk about this, under growth, it actually also goes to community and to justice. We want to reflect not our pluralism, and we left this by saying representing the theological views, but we also want to do this in all of the other ways that are inclusive. So that means there's a pluralism of class. There's a pluralism of gender identity represented. Right? This is a much larger understanding of pluralism than just simply theological. We steward our faith tradition and practices while pledging our curiosity to change by adapting new ideas. So this concept is twofold. One, we want to make sure that we are continuing to give our children the foundations of our faith so that they have a theology of Unitarian and identity of Unitarian Universalism. But we also want to adapt to new ideas as well. But there's also a very physical component to this, because as we grow, we will need to think about how our building, our programming, our staff needs, and even our governance needs to change because of our growth size and the new initiatives and the new people that are walking into our spaces. So it's both of those pieces. And finally, with justice, we foster committed relationships with local community partners to collaborate in making our world more just. The timing on the justice conversation was particularly interesting because we were in the middle of having a brand new political administration. And I had also at this time had assembled with the board's support an election task force. And together, things were coming up that we heard that we then brought to the Visioning Task Force. So one thing that we heard quite deeply from you all was that you want relationships with organizations in the community. You didn't want to reinvent something here yourself. That is powerful, to leverage what is already being done well out there. Now, that doesn't mean we're going to partner with just everybody, right? But that doesn't mean we can't have relationships with a whole bunch of organizations. And so we're clear that what this looks like potentially is having deep relationships with a few folks, a few different community organizations, but then also having larger connections as well, and then networking those connections in our congregation. So if a new person comes in and they want to be doing work, we can already connect them to people who have, so I'm looking at Linda Clark because she is already connected to UUPMI and our Prison Ministry of Illinois. We can connect them and leverage that more powerfully with organizations that are already doing the work. And then finally, we boldly show up. I love the word boldly. Bridget Coleman used that at our board meeting last week. We boldly show up in our community and the world to be a witness to our values. We want to have a reputation, and having that reputation is part of growth and community. We are solidly together, and it grows us as we show up together. So those are the potential first steps of our end statements that kind of narrow down a little bit more the vision statement. Off to you, Jack.
So we still have 25 minutes to have a conversation. We'd like to hear anything and everything that arises for you as you see the statement, as you read the statement, as you hear the statement. What thoughts or feelings feel important to you to share? We have 2 microphones on stands here, and if you would want to come up and queue up to have a chance to speak to all of us, that would be great. We are recording this or possibly live streaming it, so either way there'll be a recording, and anybody who isn't present this morning hopefully will be able to hear all of our comments. So if we have comments and we don't feel like going to the microphone, we're going to do it anyway. and then if we don't feel like going to the microphone, and we can have a microphone come to us. These are both mobile, and that'll be just fine. Before we get to that, I'd just like to invite you to read it aloud one time together. We strive to boldly enact our values toward a just world as we nurture our growth to become a more inclusive and deeply connected intergenerational community.
Am I on? Hello? Hello? Okay.
Maybe this one.
I'll use this one here.
Yeah, great.
Thank you, Jack and Task Force team, because you've done 2 things that I was hoping for. One is that clearly you listened well, and what you came up with in your data really reflects us. So I applaud you for that. And I have particular bias towards the second thing, is doing what you can with an economy of words. I've always held the view that if something is just too wordy and long, we don't know it and we can't connect with it often. So the fact that you've really worked hard to kind of whittle away and yet preserve the three core things, I applaud you for, and I really support it. Thank you.
Did we get, no? How are we doing? No? This one's going to work a little bit? Okay.
You've given us a lot of good information. I just would like to know more about your action plan to implement these statements.
Yeah, I can speak to that. So we have this statement, and we have the end statements, which we won't be reading every single Sunday. Those are there to accompany this with more specificity. But then that all is given as a charge to the board to come up with a strategic plan. So the plan will be something we develop, that the board develops next year and going forward. Does that answer your question? Yes.
I love this. What I love most about it is the word boldly, despite being an anti-adverb person, because it puts action into it. Yeah. The writers in the room are laughing. But it puts action into it. It says we're not passively waiting to do these things. We are going to boldly go forward and enact these things. And I think that's just awesome. Thank you.
Thanks, Karen.
I like the brevity of the vision statement as well very much. I do have one question. The end statements are things we're supposed to achieve. And as a scientist, I like to know how we're going to know we've achieved those. So I really like the 70% in the one. And I'm wondering if the strategic plan is going to have more ways that we can actually determine if we've achieved those end statements.
Yeah, thanks, Mark. I think that the answer to that is yes. Again, our work, we are not charged with, we are not the board, and we weren't charged with determining the process going forward. Our only charge was to paint the picture, and then pass that picture on to the congregation and the board. So my understanding is the board will have specificity and details that can be measured going forward, but I believe that is beyond our mission, our charge on the vision statement task force.
Can I ask a quick question? Are you going to email this out to the congregation?
The question is, will we email this out to the congregation? Yes, I believe there will be a congregation-wide email tomorrow that will also include, since I'm mentioning it, an invitation to 2 Zoom sessions that we will have where we reprise most of this and have more chances to have dialogue about it both on Thursday, one at noon and one at 7 p.m. So hopefully hopefully you don't have a crazy busy Thursday and you can catch one of those if you want more after this.
This is really awesome, really amazing work. I had one question and then one comment. The question is just curious about the conversation you had with the word strive instead of something like will, because I don't know, the feeling I get when strive is like we're going to try and do this, which I know we are, but I also feel like maybe we will do these things. And then the only other thing that came up for me was thinking about the end statements within growth. I feel like having something more specifically calling out the growth of our congregation might be helpful because, thank you. Because understanding, yes, how growth impacts our building, our programming, being good stewards of our faith tradition, it makes sense. But I don't know if we can say that we've achieved growth if we aren't actually like a larger congregation. So that's the only thing that came up. Thanks.
Neil, since I saw some people, they weren't hearing your first comments, let me see if I can, tell me if I got it. So you were wondering about the choice of the word strive because of the way it suggests, it doesn't necessarily suggest the intention to accomplish, but rather the intention to have an intention. And thank you. And the second part, you said that actually, because I was noticing people couldn't hear you well, was that if we don't become a bigger congregation, we won't have achieved that. Is that, could you say more about that? Because I'm not sure I got it. I'll just repeat it here if that's okay, so, if you want. I see. So it was about incorporating a larger membership into an end statement so that we can measure whether or not we attained the goal of growing.
Okay. I am very concerned about the little amiga. I'm warning about a Christian nationalism, about like Southern Baptist, the Republican Party, involve a Christian nationalism and very powerful. When I was very upset about Pam Bundy, he said about the law. The law is very wrong. Do not respect all of us, our people, and none are Christian. The children treat all of us unfairly. The calling us anti-Christian bigots. Do not allow us, like basically like half of the room, while only finger, if he us, his finger, that put us all the trouble, that don't making any sense. So I am concerning about that this is our community, whether it's Catholic, the other social like Catholic, Muslim, the Jewish temple, all put together, to protecting, to keep the social justice and never allow ever a Christian nationality to put us down. We cannot put them down. We never pick it up. We put together. Thank you.
Can anyone help me summarize Leanne's statement? I'm not sure I caught it all. Does anyone, can anyone read the signing she was doing? I definitely want to try and make sure we all heard her.
This statement is going to help us do the social justice work we need to do to help stop Christian nationalism, as an example of the justice work we need to do in the world. Good example. You know, while I'm up here, I really love, I was gonna stand up. I love the phrase deeply connected intergenerational community, because it's one thing to have a lot of people of different ages in the same room, and it's another one when they have a relationship and they can say, my friend, and it's someone who's 40 years different from them. And that to me is actually a really important part of our church and what we want to do. And the word toward, I don't quite understand what it does grammatically, but I understand what you mean when you say it. And I would rather have a phrase that's a tiny bit awkward to me grammatically, but I totally understand what it's saying, than one that reads perfectly, but it's a little vague. So, thumbs up, because I've done this kind of work, and I am so proud of you.
I so appreciate you guys doing all this work because I don't feel that I'm much of a word person. I'm a number person. But speaking of numbers. Took the microphone down. Down to here? Can you hear me now? Yes. Okay, let me start again. I so appreciate you people doing this word work because I'm not a word person, I'm a numbers person. But speaking of numbers, and I want to kind of address what Nell was talking about, the whole idea of growth. I feel like growth would be absolutely wonderful, and diverse growth would be wonderful, and not diverse growth is wonderful. But if all of us who are part of this, instead of 70%, had 100%, and those who are participating in multiple ways, I think we could see lots going on and still feel ourselves scientifically that we really have achieved what we were looking for in terms of growth.
Those of you who know me know I am a word person. I see the phrase just world. Are we talking about an absolutely just world, a substantially more just world, or we're just going to get a marginally just world? There are lots of issues buried in that word. Primarily for some people, there could be an economic issue in terms of basic economic capacity for anybody and everybody. Minimums, maximums. I'm not sure where we as a congregation would actually stand in terms of that. There are absolutes that I see in the word justice, like treating all people with dignity. But I recognize, at least in my own observation of the world, there are a bunch of people I do not want to treat with dignity anymore. I want people to have a clear chance to thrive. But I will not go to the ends of the world for people who refuse to thrive. Where are we on something like that? I believe everybody should be healthy. But I can't make everybody healthy, and I don't know how far we go to try to make everybody healthy, especially when the cost of purposeful unhealthiness in this society is backbreaking. And I could go on. So I think it's going to be a lot of great work you've done, but I have a hunch that the really hardest work for us as a community is to converge on just world. How far, what we can do here, because that's the critical part of what I see here. I appreciate the boldly, I appreciate the verbs, but to come to grips with really making a difference in a just world, I think will be our most righteous hard work. Thank you.
So first of all, I wanted to thank you guys for all the hard work. It is difficult to make a statement like this that doesn't sound generic. And this has movement, it has specifics. It can be boiled down to like 3 words, even beyond this, which I love. So I think you guys did a really good job with a really big task. The thing that I think that I keep coming back to is the fact that, and actually, like Nell pointed out the word strive, I actually like that, because I feel like the work we do as people, as a church community, is really, it's never over. We're never gonna arrive at that terminal, just perfect world. It's always going to be moving on to the next needed thing to figure out how things have changed and what we need to do next. So I like that this is not meant to apply forever, but for like the next 5 years. I like that there's a sense of movement that we might change what those end statements are, or how they've been perceived. And I think that just kind of the action in here is not absolute. It gives us the ability to adapt and change as the world around us adapts and changes. So thank you guys for all the hard work.
So I'll add just one thought to what I've heard in the last 10 minutes or so. As I look at the vision statement page, I see a more just world. We're never going to make it a just world, but we can make it a more just world. And as I recall the value of transition, where things are never complete and never perfect, but you can make them more so. And so I agree with the statements and how it's expressed on the page. And while we may never reach a just world or a completely healthy world, we can make it more so. That's it.
We have 6 more minutes. So if you know you want to make a comment, go ahead and come on up.
Hi. First of all, I want to compliment you guys because I've done this years ago personally with a group, and I know the work it was to come down to one statement for your personal vision or purpose. So with what you had, the input you had to work with, this is phenomenal. And so I know what it takes to get to the lack of wordiness here. So I would like to pick the middle part. I'm glad to see in there, we nurture our growth to become ... And as you all know enough about me, how focused I am on the value and importance of personal growth and owning that to achieve this deeply connected intergenerational community. So my comment is that when we say to nurture our growth to become, there's a lot of become besides the intergenerational community, because we have to become our own, or working towards our own best selves and looking at what we as Unitarians think we've arrived. We haven't arrived. We have a lot of work, all of us, on ourselves that go along with this. So I'm just advocating for the strategic plan to be addressing that. Thank you.
Thank you for letting me get a word in, Jack. I just want to thank the committee that worked on this. Okay, is this better? I want to thank the committee that worked on this for doing such a beautiful job. But I also want to say what stood out for me very much was the word growth and the way the word growth was looked at this time around. Because having been here for, I think, maybe 25 years, I think of growth in this DUC community as numbers. I see it as if we fill the seats, if we have more people, things are going to be better, or we're going to grow internally from that. And what I hear in this statement and the words surrounding it is a growth that is that comes from attentiveness to what's going on around us, that comes from listening, that comes from awareness. And that's just a more beautiful way of looking at this. And if that happens, then the seats will be filled. But that's, to me, not the important part. It's the growth within us and among us.
I want to acknowledge that we intended to bring microphones around, and then, so if anyone is not wanting to come up here and still wants to get a comment in after Robert, I'll come to you and make sure we hear from you.
I really resonated with the word inclusiveness. And I was just thinking, frequently people say, what you doing this weekend, or what you're going to do this week. And I look forward to, over the next 5 years, saying, I'm going to this terrific event or committee at the DuPage Unitarian Universalist Church that's working on a justice issue. Come along with me, and let's do it together.
This one is working a little, right? Yeah. So does anyone, any other comments?
Well, I'm really, can you hear me? I don't know. I'm really excited about the statement and some of the things that you talked about, that everyone talked about wanting to be known in the community. And I think that for UUs, I haven't really heard that before. You know, I think we offer something in the UU faith that is really needed by everyone right now, and people are going away from traditional churches anyway, but they still need this kind of thing that we're doing here. So I think it's kind of radical that we are all saying we want to be known in the community. We want people to know about us. We want people to take part with us. We want to spread our values. And so I'm super excited about that. And I agree with Bev that we need to grow, but also people will come. And with justice, of course, there's so much, it's kind of overwhelming, but I believe in the ripple effect, and every interaction we have with one person ripples out beyond. So I think what we are doing could be extremely impactful in the world, not just Naperville. And I think UU, as a denomination, should start doing what we're doing everywhere.
Yeah, I was struck by this idea that growth is interwoven in all the parts of this vision statement. Because if we really do boldly enact our values for justice, our name will be recognized in our community, and people will be curious about, well, who are these people? And, you know, this sounds kind of attractive to me, which leads to growth. And a lot of these things also lead to growth. So I really like the interconnectedness of all these parts.
So we are supposed to be done, did anybody else want to get a last comment in? I thought I saw a hand right here, but no. Okay. Let's see. I want to remind you that Thursday, Zoom, you'll get an email tomorrow with links. If you want to reprise any of this, maybe just tune in half an hour in so you don't have to listen to the presentation all over again, but whatever. We'll be there, so there'll be more chances to talk about it. Thank you for being here this morning, and thank you so much for all of the input you gave us.